আমার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
Good evening, everybody. It would have been better if you could introduce the speakers first. Anyway, uh, I welcome the attendees and especially Professor Jyoti Prakash Basu, who is here from West Bengal State University, and Dr. Somnath Hajra from Jadavpur University. And we are also happy that the Department of Economics has taken up this webinar, and they have picked up this particular subject for discussion, which is of much importance, that all we know that the ecosystem all over the world has degraded, and it has been degraded over the years, and it would be a part across the subjects, across the the streams. It is our part, it is our objective to upgrade the ecosystem and the reversal of the things, so that the sustainable development can be maintained. I mean, it is to be learned from this particular webinar, where Professor Basu will be delivering lecture and Professor Hajra will be delivering lecture, and it is to be learned that how economics will play part in this particular area. I think that would be enough for an introduction by me, and I thank all the attendees, all the teachers of the department. Professor Chakraborty is there, and other teachers are also there. I mean, the other economics faculties from other colleges have participated. The students have also participated. It could be a nice session, an interesting session. I hope that the speakers will bring this particular topic to a point of discussion where things will be more interesting, and we will come out with our purpose. Thank you very much. With these 2-3 words, I conclude this session. I'll be happy if not the session, I'm not concluding the session. This particular ritual, whatever you call. I'd be very happy if you introduce the teachers, the speakers before us. Thank you, Gargi.
Thank you, sir. Now, our first speaker is Professor Jyoti Prakash Basu. I will give a brief introduction of him. Professor Basu is a senior professor of economics at West Bengal State University. He is the former vice chancellor of West Bengal State University. His teaching and research experience is more than 30 years. He is a researcher in the field of climate change adaptation, climate change vulnerability, agricultural markets, forest governance, and sustainable forest management. In the capacity of researcher, Professor Basu visited 25 countries, notably Australia, Finland, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Japan, Portugal, Ireland, South Korea, and others. He has published 4 books, of which from Springer Nature, Switzerland. He has published a lot of articles, papers in the reputed international and national journals. In addition, Professor Basu has completed 6 research projects funded by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, ICSSR, and UGC. He was a member of different international professional societies, like member of International Agricultural Economics, International Union of Forest Research Organization, European Association of Environment and Resource Economics. It's in Venice, Italy. And last but not the least, he was my research guide And before handing over this session to sir, I will request all. I will inform you one thing, that we will share the feedback form in the chat box later, and a time will be allotted for question answer session. Okay. Now over to you, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you, Gargi. And I thank Dr. Ashok Mukhopadhyay, Principal, Sheikh Anandram Baipuria College. Thank you, sir. And I'm happy and that you have given me the chance to say something about the ecological restoration, ecological landscape restoration, and especially, actually, uh, my I am actually trying to show the how the institutions, different institutions, role of institutions in forest landscape restoration in West Bengal, and empirical evidence, some empirical evidence. Very interesting area, I think, and I know that it is a multidisciplinary area. Sir has already told why the economists are very interested to study this. Actually, not only economists, it is a multidisciplinary area. All departments, all disciplines are engaging in this field of research. So, I think the topic actually I have selected on the basis of the your main and main area of the topic. So I like to say something about this area, and now for the benefits of the larger audience, I like to share the screen. Okay. ওর স্ক্রিনটা দেখা
স্যার আপনি মিউট আছেন।
Gargi, possibly sir is in the mute state, I think.
কল না না হচ্ছে না, আপনি মিউট আছে। মিউট হয়ে গেছেন স্যার।
Is it visible?
No sir, not yet. স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করেছেন স্যার, এন্টায়ার স্ক্রিন?
ইন্টার স্ক্রিন করবো?
হ্যাঁ, এটা এবার আসছে, এবার আসছে।
ওকে, sorry. This is my title of my presentation, title of role of institutions in forest landscape restoration in West Bengal and empirical study. And in this study, the various research issues are emerged. One of them is the ecosystem services of forests, tragedy of commons, conservation or sustainable forest management, different forest policies, role of institutions, governance, monitoring and enforcement. These areas, actually, ecosystem forest performs various services. One of the, this is known as the ecosystem services. It provides the provisioning service of like food, fuel, fodder, non-timber forest products, etc. It also regulates the regulating service, performs the regulating service like the control of soil erosion, microclimates, and carbon sequestration. Forest also provides supporting service like nutrient cycling and primary production, and also the cultural services like recreational and spiritual services. So forest provides various ecosystem services for the betterment of the living organs in society. And that we are very well known that these resources have been degrading by the human being. That means that the forest resources have been degraded, and if we talk about the very interesting word of the Hardin's 1968, the tragedy of the commons, the common resources, the common properties of the common, like forests, like grazing land, they are the open access resources, and their tragedy is very tragedy, because the degradation and deforestation is going on. And Hardin, and on the issues of the Hardin, on the basis of the issues of Hardin, there has been a lot of debates how to efficiently manage the common forest resources. Some researchers are in favor of state-led management, while some other scholars suggested that privatization of common resources is the only way to resolve the tragedy of the commons and conservation of natural resources. So some researchers, they are pointing out that the state-led forest management, that means state government will manage the forest resources, and some other scholars, they are suggesting that privatization of common resources, if the common resources are privatized, if the common resources are managed by the government, then the tragedy of the common, the problem of the tragedy of the common will be resolved. And in this particular area, we mention the Ostrom, who got the Nobel winner in 2009, and on the important works on the governing of the commons. And there she actually argued that local communities can effectively manage natural resources. Community-based governance regimes can solve the problems of the tragedy of the commons. So she has already trying to talk about the local communities can solve solve the tragedy of the commons. So various arguments are in operation coming. Someone's in favor of giving some favor of the state-led institutions, someone is giving preference on the privatization, and someone is giving emphasis on the community based forest management can can conserve the natural resources, and in this way the tragedy of the commons may be resolved. Second one is the conservation. You know that the restoration means actually conservation. So conservation means actually sustainable forest management. We need sustainable forest management. Forests should be managed in sustainable way. So in the future generation will not be deprived. So the poor class people, they will not be alienated from the management point of view. So conservation is important issue, which is very important for the restorations of the landscape restoration. In addition to that, while we are coming across the institutions, so it is invariably related to forest policies, different forest policies. Here we mention only after independence, 1952, 1976, 1988, and 1990. The Joint Forest Management Program was there. The 1952 forest policy, top priority was given on commercial exploitation of forests and depriving the needs of local communities. That means the commercial exploitation of forests. And under this policy, forest land was given to industries and businessmen for industrial development, and which had significant impact on forest and forest dependent communities. So 1952 forest policy emphasis was given on the forest land to be given for the industrial purposes and business purposes. That means commercial exploitation will be there. So those who are dependent on forests, the forest dependent communities, their rights, their livelihood opportunities were not being considered there in 1952 forest policy. The National Commission, 1976, the National Commission on Agriculture introduced social forestry in 1975. So 75, 76, this is the social forestry regime, where forestry in the unproductive, barren, non-forest government and community land, and realizing that importance of the local supports for the protection and of the forests. That means social forestry. That means forestry that means to develop the forestry in unproductive area, non-forest government and community lands. And the involvement of local supports are very much importance there. And 1988, this is the national forest policy of the government of India. After 1988, there is no forest policy till now. So under this forest policy, 1988, importance was given on the environmental stability, ecological balance, and the conservation, and the people's participation, including women, in a holistic manner. That means 1988 forest policy, environmental stability was given priority, ecological balance was given priority, and conservation also. Along with that, the people who are dependent on forest, their participation was realized in a holistic manner. So this is the forest policy also helps for the restoration of the landscape. Institutions. Very interesting point. Our basic objective is to restore the degraded area under forestry. So restoration. In the restoration,
Sir,
Ah.
sorry to disturb you, but your slides are not moving, I think.
slide is not moving.
Now it's moving.
Oh, okay. No. Just I am describing. I am describing the points. Yes. So background of the study, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible clearly.
Yes. And I have completed the forest policies up to that area point. And next point is the institution. Clear? So institutions means institutions may be of various forms. It may be global level, it may be local level, it may be formal institutions, it may be informal institutions. So what types of institutions we are taking into consideration? If you look at the global level, you see that World Bank is the important part in the forest conservation. UNDP also, and FAO, Forest and Agriculture Organization, they are working at the global level. At the local level, there are so many institutions like Joint Forest Management Committees, Forest Protection Committees, Bono Panchayats, and Biodiversity Management Committees, Eco Development Committees, NGOs, self-help groups, etc. and Panchayat Raj Institution, PRI. So they are working in the forest area, forest field, forestry. So various institutions, I am mentioning here institutions. What types of institutions? What are the forms of institutions? So the various types of institutions are functioning in the forest sector. So their role we cannot deny, their role for the restoration of forest, landscape restoration. The next point is very much important, is the governance. So governance is very important factor. So by governance, what do we mean? By governance, we mean the way in which various stakeholders like communities, government, civil society, NGO, smallholders, and other institutions enforce their decisions for management, for conservation of the forest resources. So various types of stakeholders, the way in which the various types of stakeholders enforce their decision for the management and conservation of forest resources, which is known as the governance. So governance may be good, governance may be bad. Good governance, FAO 2006 and World Bank 2009 defined the good governance means the respect of is characterized by the respect for rule of law, transparency, corruption, participation, and high accountability. So 6 indicators for used for the good governance. So if these 4 indicators operate in the forest sector, so naturally the restoration of forests will be there. The degraded forest will be restored. Landscape will be fine. So their role we cannot deny. So in the study of the governance, in the study of the institutions, we have to consider these indicators like rule of law, transparency, corruption, participation, and accountability. And apart from that, we have to consider 2 important issues. One is monitoring and another is the enforcement. And you know that the appropriate enforcement and monitoring are the 2 conditions for the good forest governance. That means a question does arise: who will enforce and who will monitor the forest laws in order to protect and manage the forest resources? we read the forest policy 1988, we read forest policy of 1952, we read joint forest management in 1990. But question is that who will enforce, who will monitor the forest policies? Whether state government will enforce, whether state government will monitor the forest rules? No. So monitoring and enforcement are two conditions for the good governance. So question is the appropriate monitoring. I am talking about appropriate monitoring and local and appropriate monitoring and enforcement by the community-based institutions helps to reduce the deforestation and in favor of the forest regeneration. So appropriate policies, appropriate level of enforcement, collective action reduces the probability of forest degradation. Rather, it increases the scope of forest regeneration. That means enforcement and monitoring by the community-based institutions, by collective actions that reduces the forest degradation. So these are the issues, these are the issues that should be pointed out for the analysis of the landscape restorations. And second thing, this slide actually shows the roots and fruits of sustainable forest management. What are the roots? What are the roots? You see, the roots are economic efficiency, equity, and incentives. So efficient management, forest protection should be efficiently worked. So you have to find out the resources. As you know, the forest resources are very scarce resource, very valuable resource. So you have to operate. You have to use the resource efficiently. Otherwise, inefficient will be there. Management will be there. So roots are for the sustainable management, forest management. What are the roots? One of them is the economic efficient. Second is the transparent and accountable decision making and instructions. Third one is the effective implementation and enforcement. And next is the clear and concurrent policies, legal, human, international, and regulatory framework model. So these are I have talked about the same line. I am moving in the same line of thoughts. The efficiency, transparency, accountability, effectiveness, implementation, these are the roots. And what are the fruits we get? We get the ecological diversity, forest health, forest extent of forest resources, and products, functions of forest resources, and socio-economic functions. And these are the fruits of sustainable development. If the roots are made strongly, so fruits will automatically generate it. And now we like to point out the empirical evidence. For the you will be very happy to know that the results of the forest restorations with respect to in West Bengal, how it operates. And for this study, this is the major research project done by the West Bengal State University, Department of Economics. And I like to share these results with all of the participants. And we have actually done two divisions. One in West Bengal, two forest divisions, South Bengal and North Bengal. And in South Bengal, we have selected three forest divisions: Purulia Forest Division, Bakura South, and Paschim Midnapur, the Rupnarayan Forest Division of Paschim Midnapur. And North Bengal, we have selected Alipurduar Forest Division. And we have number of villages selected, 9 for Purulia, 10 for Bakura, Paschim Medinipur 10, and Alipurduar 6. And total number of households, 252 for Purulia, 288 for Bakura South, 213 for Paschim Medinipur, and 51 for the Alipurduar. So actually, more than 800 households are there, and 35 villages. 35 villages are involved for this research. And what results? You know that we have calculated the index, forest governance index. Actually, in forest governance, our objective is to establish whether the governance is good, whether the governance is bad, whether not bad, governance is poor, governance is moderate, or governance is excellent in the forest sector. And with the help of some global indicators that I mentioned here, the rule of law, transparency, accountability, and participation, and inclusive and equitable and efficient and effective. These are the main indicators of the governance. And on the basis of the governance, we asked some questions to the households, and their descriptions and their response were taken, and from the from 3 scale Likert scales, 1, 2, and 3. And we have asked some questions, these questions, and on the basis of their questions, rule of law, we have questions these. For transparency, we have questions, and for accountability, we have these questions, and for participations, we have these questions, and for inclusive and equitable, so we have these questions, and efficient and effective, we have these questions. So we have asked these questions of these indicators, main indicators and sub indicators, and their responses were taken. And on the basis of their responses, we use the UNDP methodology for the index calculation. We are not showing the index calculation methodology, but we have calculated index as per UNDP methodology. And this is the result. Governance index for forest divisions: Purulia, Bakura, Paschim Medinipur, and Alipurduar. And you see that in the highest value of the index value lies between 0 and 1. If it goes to closer to 1, it is very good performance of governance. And if it goes down, it is the poor performance of the governance. So here we see that the Alipurduar, the governance index is 0.483 compared to the other forest divisions. It is it's the highest value of governance indicators. So Alipurduar is found to be highest governance index, followed by Purulia. And it will be clear if you take the diagram. This is the diagram. You see that Alipurduar is found to be highest value. So it is highest. Then next highest is Purulia, then Bakura, and very poor performance with the Rupnarayan Forest Division of Paschim Medinipur. So the forest governance index is highest for North Bengal Forest Division, or it is the Alipurduar Forest Division, followed by Purulia, Bakura, and then lowest is Paschim Medinipur. And then we categorized the good governance, bad governance, poor governance, or excellent, or medium, or moderate governance was categorized on the basis of the governance index values. And here we are just writing, we are just showing the results. We have categorized if the index value is less than equal to 0.245, it will be treated as poor governance. If it lies between 0.246 to 0.498, it will be moderate or medium governance. If the forest governance index lies between 0.499 to 0.733, it would be good governance. And if it exceeds 0.34, 0.734, it would be treated as the excellent governance. So from the categorization basis, we see that Alipurduar, the rule of law is very poor for Bankura, Paschim Mednapur, and Alipurduar. Medium is Purulia. But transparency is very good, Alipurduar and Bankura South. And you see, the participation is excellent, Alipurduar. Inclusive and equitable, yes, it is excellent, but it is not efficient and effective use of forest resources. It's very poor. So it is categorically, we can say its governance is medium. All the forest divisions show the medium governance or moderate governance. So we don't have any good governance criteria. Good governance. We have all of the medium governance, but across various sub-indicators. For example, in the case of the rule of law, it is very poor. Transparency, Bankura is good, but Paschim Mednipur poor. And in accountability, Bankura and Paschim Mednipur both are poor. So these are the pictures. So what conclusions we conclude? We conclude that all the forest divisions show the medium or moderate governance. And if we compare the rule of law, in the case of the rule of law, Purulia is highest and lowest is Bankura South. In the case of transparency, Bankura South is highest. And in the case of accountability, Alipurduar is highest. In the case of participation, Alipurduar is highest. And in the case of equitable and inclusive, Alipurduar is highest. But in efficient management khetre, Purulia is highest. So these are the these results we see from our study, and we separate out the division-wise for South Bengal as well as North Bengal, and we see that governance is North Bengal is found to be highest, 0.483, while in South Bengal 0.374. So North Bengal Forest Division, clearly there is a although they show the medium governance, but comparing with South Bengal, the North Bengal is highest. And what are the causes behind it? Why North Bengal is West Bengal has highest forest governance? Because in order to do that, we have another important points: monitoring, implementation, and enforcement indices. We have also calculated the index values on the basis of households or responses. And what you see that in the case of monitoring index, this is the North Bengal. This colors shows the North Bengal, and this is the South Bengal. And you see that North Bengal monitoring index highest for North Bengal. Institutional index is highest for North Bengal compared to South Bengal, and enforcement index is highest. Enforcement index also highest in North Bengal compared to South Bengal. In another comparison with the help of the participation, in terms of participation, you see participation was households participate in 3 stages. One is the planning stage, another is the implementation stage, and last is the monitoring stage. And comparing and all these taken together, this is the overall participation stage. So we see what you see in the overall participation stage, the North Bengal Forest Division has highest, whereas in the case of the monitoring, planning, and implementation, also North Bengal Forest Division, the highest participation has been observed for the North Bengal Forest Division compared to the South Bengal. These are the reasons. And what are the findings? The findings is that the forest governance index at the household level in the forest division of Alipurduar is found to be highest, followed by Purulia Forest Division, Bankura South, and Rupnaran Forest Division, Paschim Midnapur. The overall forest governance of Purulia Forest Division, Bankura Forest Division, Alipurduar are found to be medium or moderate, while overall forest division for Rupnaran Forest Division of Paschim Midnapur is very, very poor. And in terms of participation index, Alipurduar is highest, followed by Purulia, Rupnarayan, and Bankura. And it has been observed that monitoring index, institutional index, enforcement is also higher in North Bengal Forest Division compared to South Bengal. This means that the monitoring institutions, enforcement are very much effective in North Bengal Forest Division than South Bengal Forest Division. What recommendations? What recommend for the development of such? Importance should be given on the cross-sectoral cooperation. That means cross-sectoral linkage. We found is the lacking area. There is no cooperation or coordination in like the forest sector with rural development sector, forest sector with agricultural sector, and forest sector with irrigation sector. So we recommend the cross-sectoral cooperation is needed. Second important point was the tourism development. Very, very important for the livelihood generation of the people, those who are living in the forest fringes areas. And diversification of livelihoods. They are dependent only for forest. Why not? Why they are not going to the agriculture? Why they are not going to the business? So diversification of livelihood is very much important and urgent, and employment generation. Otherwise, forest dependency will be high. If forest dependency is high, so forest degradation will be there. Poverty will be there. No employment, that means poverty will be there. Poverty reduces the forest degradation. Forest degradation will be there. So these are the recommendations that should, if these recommendations are followed, so I think some betterment will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I'll request audience, you can share your question now. If you have any question, you can ask now. Is there any question? Uttamda, কোনো question আছে? No. Anyone else? Any questions? I think there is no question, sir. So our second speaker is also there. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
There is no question. Okay.
So I am very bad teacher. No question.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our second speaker is there. The second speaker is Dr. Somnath Hajra. Somnath da, let me give a brief introduction of him. Dr. Somnath Hajra is working as a consulting economist, visiting faculty at the School of Oceanographic Studies, Jadavpur University, and is also visiting faculty in West Bengal State University. Currently, he is working as an expert and advisors of different international bodies in UK, Denmark, USA, India. He also worked as a climate expert in different states of our country. He has more than 60 research papers on climate change environment. So far visited 50 countries for climate change related assignments and conferences and international meetings. He worked as an international consultant for the Ministry of Finance, Government of Kenya. That's it. Somnatha, please.
Hello. শোনা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ শোনা যাচ্ছে একদম।
Okay. So I must say thanks to first Principal Sir, Professor Ashok Mukhopadhyay, and especially to Dr. Gargi Bosu, who have invited me to share my thoughts in this occasion. So today, the topic is very pertinent topic, very important topic they have chosen. The topic is that the economics of ecosystem restoration. So this is the basically this this year on 5th June, United Nations announced that the decade of 2021 to 2030 is the decade of ecosystem restoration decade. So this is very important topic for us right now. So I'm just going to the presentation. So first of all, already we have learned a lot from Professor Basu's presentation that governance and how important governance is, and how important the other issues like rule of law, the transparency, the participation, and all. So basically, that the ecosystem, already you have learned what is ecosystem services and what is restoration, ecosystem restoration. But if we go with the words of United Nations, that this is because of this definition, then I can go with the words that ecosystem restoration is the process of halting and reversing degradation resulting in improvement ecosystem services and recovered biodiversity. So ecosystem restoration encompasses a wide continuum of practices depending on the local conditions and social choices. Already you have learned a lot about the local choices, local conditions, and societal choices. So basically, the ecosystem restoration of ecosystem services can follow through the different paths. That maybe there are 3 paths we can develop. That ecosystem restoration of ecosystem services we can do the restoration of ecosystem services that from degraded natural to more intact natural ecosystem. That is basically the ANR. ANR means assisted natural regeneration. This is to restore the forest ecosystem. We should assist the natural ecosystem, natural forest to preserve them, to conserve them, so that they can regenerate itself. And for the degraded to modified ecosystem to the functional ecosystem, that is restoration of urban areas or farmlands. Farmlands basically the cropland and the pastoral land. And from the modified ecosystem towards the more natural ecosystem, that is providing the rights to the needs of the people who depend on that ecosystem, who depend on that ecosystem. So this is the 3 ways we have to where we can restore our ecosystem services. So, but what is the current situation worldwide right now? We have a lot of different types of ecosystem. We have farmland ecosystem, we have forest ecosystem, we have freshwater ecosystem, we have grassland ecosystem, we have mountain ecosystem, we have ocean ecosystem, we have and peatland ecosystem, we have urban ecosystem also. So what is the current situation right now? Farmland, that is compiled with that farmland is compiled with that cropland and the pastoral land. Pastoral land is basically the grazing land. So it has been seen that 4.8 billion hectares are under cropland and pastoral land. Okay, so it is basically, if we go with the percentage, then 12% and 26% of the world ice-free land area is under the cropland and the pastoral land. So if we go with the current situation, if we think about the current situation, what is the current situation right now? So 20% cropland already under stressed and declining the productivity. We have seen, as per the 2021 data, 20% of the cropland and shows distressed and declined the productivity. If we go with the forest, if any forest, we can take tropical forest, we can take subtropical forest, temperate forest, boreal forest, whatever, the planted forest or the natural forest, whatever we can take, that 4.06 billion hectares is under the forest area. So it is basically the 31% of the total global land area. And if we go with the current situation, already 420 million hectares of forest have been converted to the other land use pattern, if we count it from the 1990. Freshwater, You just see the number 0.1%, less than 0.0, how important it is. The fresh water comes from the river, comes from the lake or wetland or other inland waters. That is basically the less than 0.01% of the Earth's surface are under fresh water. And if we count it from the 1970, we have already lost 37%, 35% of the natural inland wetlands. And it is very alarming if we go with this by the year 1700, already 87% we have lost. In terms of grassland or swampland or savannas, the grassland and savannas are covered 26 to 40% of the total land area, Earth's surface. And if you go with the current condition, current situation, that 19% of the grassland and 27% of the savanna rangeland already stressed and declining productivity. So now we can understand how important ecosystem service is, how important ecosystem goods and services. If we go with the mountains in all over the world, continent, in the biomes, hot desert, that is tropical forest and the polar ice caps. So 27% of the global land area is under mountain. If we go with the current situation, then we can say that average declining of the duration of mountain snow cover, average every decade, 5 days reducing. 5 days. If every decade the 5 days are reducing snow cover. If we go with the ocean and coast ecosystem, the tropical or temperate, whatever this coast or ocean, 36 billion hectares is under occupation or occupied by the ocean. And the current situation is 66% of the ocean ecosystem are damaged and degraded. So 66%, you can imagine that 66% already damaged or degraded. And due to our unsustainable fishing activity, we have lost around 1/3 of the commercial marine fish. What about the peatlands? Peatland, the 400 million hectare across the 169 countries under the peatland. And the current situation is 65 million hectare of peatland, especially in the Europe and Central Africa or Central Asia or Southeast Asia, East Africa. We can see that already degraded 65 million hectares of peatland. If you go with the urban ecosystem or urban areas, very few percentage are urban areas, that is 2% of the total land area, urban ecosystem. And it has been seen that more than 50% of the cities are facing water scarcity, basically the drinking, safe and managed drinking water scarcity. So this is the current situation worldwide. This is how alarming it is. Why we need this, why the restoration necessary? What will give us? What the ecosystem is giving to us? Each and every ecosystem, we're getting some benefit, right? So if we're getting some benefit, what are the benefits of that ecosystem? We're getting money, we're getting some other kind benefits. If we go with the health and welfare, like if the ecosystem is restored properly, we can get fresh air, we can get clean air, we can get climate regulation, properly climate regulation, we can get the prevention of diseases. So it has been already, the example I can tell you one thing, that if we invest $4 per person per year, then it could improve the health of millions of people by filtering and cooling the air. Can you imagine the $4 per person per year? $4. If we go with the food security, that restoration of farmland, we have told that farmland is basically the cropland. Not only the farmland, but also the food producing services. If we conserve this, then we can reach the goal, our sustainable development goal number 2, that is the zero hunger by 2030. What will happen if we conserve, if we restore the mangrove already, I can tell you one example that if we conserve the mangroves, we can add 60 trillion young edible, commercial, valuable fish and other aquafauna every year. If we go with the biodiversity, that if we restore the biodiversity, what will happen to the biodiversity? Biodiversity will give us the lot of provisioning services. Already Professor Basu talked about the provisioning services. What are the provisioning services of forest? If we go with the example, an example I can tell you that if we restore, or if we restore that 15% of conversion, if we reduce the 15% of conversion of land, then we can increase the, we can could avoid that 60% of the expected species extinction. Just 15%, if we reduce our conversion of 15%, then we can avoid 60% of the species extinction. Very rapidly extinct species as forestry and other ecosystem services. What about the economy? Professor Mukhopadhyay already told that we need to understand how economy can help that to restore the ecosystem services. So if we degrading our ecosystem services as we are doing now, then we can lost total $10 trillion in global GDP by 2050. Can you imagine, by 2050? Right now is 2021. So another 29 years. $10 trillion US dollar. So this is the current situation. This is the requirement. That's why the requirement of restoration is required. So what about climate adaptation? We are talking about climate adaptation. We are talking about climate mitigation. Is there any requirement of that requirement of restoration of ecosystem services? Yes, climate adaptation can be happen through ecosystem services. There is a major role of ecosystem services to for the importance can play that important role of the people adaptation to the climate change. If we have an example that if we restore the oyster reefs, then we can reduce the average wave height by 53 to 91%. What about the climate mitigation? If we protect our ecosystem, then we can contribute 1/3 of the total climate change mitigation required by 2030. What about water? If we properly manage or restore our natural ecosystem, then we can get the lot of provisioning services related to water. What? The clean water, sanitation, water for sanitation, water for irrigation. So this is basically fresh water also need for the food security also. Energy production, health, each and every part water is required. So globally, 81% of the cities could reduce the sediment or nutrient pollution in the water if we increase our forest cover or if we restore our forest resources. Security. In case of Africa, I can tell you one thing, one example, that Africa Green Great Wall aims to integrate the promotion of peace, security into the larger objective of restoration. 100 million hectares are degraded across the Sahel. So this is why this is the requirement of restoration of ecosystem services. Now we can understand what happened, what is going on with the ecosystem services and why ecosystem services restoration is required. But what is the link between the economics and ecosystem services? How economies and societies are embedded in nature? I hope most of us read Dasgupta review that has been published in 2nd February. Professor Partho Dasgupta was the main leader of this research. And he highlights that already Professor Basu already told the same thing, that failure of markets and institutions to integrate the value of ecosystem into the decision making. So market failure and institutional failure are the main reason to value the ecosystem and decision into the decision making, because there is a free of cost. We are getting most of the ecosystem services we are getting free of cost, and we are using very unsustainable way that we're catching fish over catch of fish, and like we are using the forest, we are using water, very unsustainable way. And ecosystem restoration is essential to get the sustainable economic development. We need sustainable economic development. So to get the sustainable economic development, we need to boost our economy. We need to invest. We need to invest in the ecosystem services. What are the how it will create that? If we invest ecosystem services, what will give the ecosystem services? What the ecosystem service will give to us? I can tell you some examples from the Professor Dasgupta's review, that if we restore the coral reefs, we can get additional $2.5 to 2.5 billion to 2.6 billion US dollar in ecosystem services benefits per year. So restoration of coral reefs in Mesoamerica and Indonesia, not only the two countries we are talking about. Restoration of mangroves, 40 to 100% of their pre-1980s situation extent, may increase the commercial fisheries. Commercial fisheries will increase because the breeding ground, it's a fisheries breeding ground, mangrove. So by 1.9 to 3 billion per year, 3 billion USD per year. If we restore the marine fish, the maximum sustainable yield could increase that 16.5 million tons. And in terms of money, it will add annually that 32 billion USD. So you can think about that small amount of investment, how giving us back to the large amount, how large amount we are getting from the ecosystem services. So large scale investment, if we do the large scale investment in the dryland agriculture, mangrove protection, and other water management, and other ecosystem services, what will happen? We'll get a resilience of climate ecosystem. We'll get a resilience to the climate change, and with generating the benefits the fourfold. If we invest one unit, then we'll get the 4 unit. So that is the reason. So from the last slide, we can say one thing, that cost of inaction is greater than the cost of restoration. Half of the world's GDP is dependent on the nature. And if we declining continuously, then we will lose $10 trillion globally. We have already heard about that. And if we invest $1 for restoration, it will create $30 in all terms of economic benefit, not only the very specific ecosystem services. If we think about the specific ecosystem services, then it will be different. But in all terms of economic benefits, $30 will get in return if we invest $1. So every restoration, and not only the money, it will create jobs also. It will create livelihood options, livelihood opportunities. Investment in restoration, it's very powerful for job creation. I can give you some examples. That in United States, investment in landscape restoration creates at least twice as many jobs as similar investment in oil and other oil and gas sector. In case of New Zealand has dedicated to invested that 1.1 billion New Zealand dollar in the recovery fund towards 11,000 restoration jobs. Not only in New Zealand, not only in the US. We can think about the Africa also. In Africa, Ethiopia is aiming to double the forest cover by 2030 by planting 5 billion seedlings and thereby creating a green jobs. So it's not only about the money, it will create jobs, it will create livelihood options, livelihood opportunities. But now the question is, we're talking about money, we're talking about livelihood options. So how we can measure these ecosystem services in terms of money? Already we know that over exploitation and of natural resources is embedded each and every economy, each and every society, and each and every governance system. Over exploitation always there. So we can't expect like market will solve everything. Market will solve all the problem. We can't expect. If we go with the sustainable ecosystem, if we need the sustainable ecosystem, we need to understand the inclusive wealth measure. We need to understand the inclusive. What is inclusive wealth measure? Inclusive wealth measure is basically the natural capital, is basically the social capital, is a combined form of natural capital, social capital, human capital, manufactured capital. So we need to understand all those: natural capital, social capital, human capital, and manufactured capital. In terms of methodological review, methodological progress, I can tell you that in 2012, United Nations has adopted system of environmental economic accounting central framework, which is considered the concept of structure, rules, principle, and system of national accounts. And in 2014, based on the SIA, we're talking about SIA because it's a very broad one, that system of environmental economic accounting. So in short form, we can tell you that SIA. So based on SIA, in 2014, international bodies has adopted another accounting procedure, system of environmental economic accounting, experimental ecosystem accounting. So why the SIA central framework is not working for the ecosystem accounting? What is the difference between the SIA central framework and the SIA EEA framework? There is a very thin line of difference, very thin line of difference, that SIA central framework is basically focused on material things. But ecosystem services, goods and services, we have material things, we have non-material things. But the SIA EEA framework considers both, that SIA material thing and the non-material thing. That is, consider the stock value. Stock value, that means the ecosystem goods and assets, and the flow value, which is ecosystem services. So SIA EEA is a part of national income accounts, and it is the key tool reflecting our value of ecosystem services in the public policies, plans, economic systems. Now, Government of India is also doing the same thing, that based on SIA EEA framework, they are accounting ecosystem services. Each and every country has to do that, has to revise their GDP, natural GDP or nature-based GDP. So if we go with the ecosystem services, various ecosystem services, there are a lot of services. Already Professor Basu told us that provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, and supporting services. So what are the services we are getting from this specific ecosystem? If we go with the mountain ecosystem, we can get food, fiber, fresh water, erosion control, climate regulation, recreation and ecotourism, aesthetic values, spiritual values. Already you know about the forest and woodlands. I'm not talking about the forest and woodlands. I'm talking about the cultivated land, the agricultural ecosystem, food, fiber, fresh water, dryas, timber, waste regulation, biofuels, lot of things. So each and every ecosystem services has provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, and supporting services. How we can define that provision, which is the provisioning service and which is the regulating services, and which is the cultural service, and how we can like market, this is supporting services. Provisioning services is basically provide in the form of products or goods, which is consuming that are consumed by the human or used in the production of other goods. Maybe include nuts, maybe include fish, timber, water, whatever. Regulating services. The benefits derived from an ecosystem services control or natural process such as climate, disease, erosion, water quality, supply, pollination, protection from natural hazards such as storms and wave damage. What about the cultural services? These are basically the non-material benefits. I'm talking about the non-material benefits in EE framework. That such as recreation, spiritual values, aesthetic enjoyment. These are all cultural services. Supporting services. In 2005 Millennium Ecosystem Goals, that developed the 4 services: provisioning, regulating, cultural, and supporting. And after that, 2011, and after that, 2017, it has been revised. And supporting services is basically supporting all the other 3 services: biodiversity and natural processes such as nutrient cycling and the primary production that maintain the other services. How the conceptual framework has developed the valuing ecosystem services. If we have the ecosystem condition, it may be the mountain ecosystem, it may be the forest ecosystem, it may be the coastal ecosystem, it may be the other ecosystems. There are 3 or 4 services. 3 services are there: provisioning services, regulating services, and cultural services. First, we have to understand that what are the provisioning services we have, what are the regulating services we have, and what are the cultural services we have. Then we have to divide the market benefits and the non-market benefits, how we can value them, through market or through hypothetical market. If there is a real preference and there is a stated preference. So if there is a market value, we can value it through the market prices. If there is a no market, it's a non-trading item, then we can go with the non-market benefits or the hypothetical market. In that way, we can get the value. So we have learned about how we can get the value, how economy is linked with the ecosystem services. Now, how the restoration is possible? What are the approaches is going on? Forest landscape restoration, we're restoring, reversing the degradation of soil, we're reversing the agricultural areas, reversing forest, watersheds. In that way, each and every country is doing that. We're restoring aquatic production ecosystem. We're planting trees. We're regenerating agriculture. Farming uses soil conservation, uses soil moisture conservation. Also, we're using some other methods like water restoration methods. In Jharkhand, I'm working for that regenerating agriculture. So that is contributing basically the multiple provisioning services, regulating multiple services, provisioning, regulating, and supporting services. I can go with the other ecosystem services, but these are the 3 major ecosystem services what we can link with our daily necessities. UN on 5th June, they had developed some guiding principles of ecosystem restoration. 9 principles they have developed. I'm just reading it out because this is basically their words. So, promoting inclusive and participatory governance, social fairness, and equity from the start and throughout the process of outcomes. This is the principle 1. Principle 2 includes continuum restoration activities. Not like that we're restoring 1 year and after that we can withdraw from that ecosystem service. We are not taking care of them. So this is not the process. Process should be the continuum restoration activities. Principle 3 aims to achieve the highest level of recovery as possible for ecosystem health and human well-being. Highest level of recovery is possible. Principle 4, addressing drivers of ecosystem. We have to address the drivers of ecosystem degradation so that we can reduce the ecosystem degradation. If we know that the drivers of degradation, then we can know how to reduce the degradation. if there is need some livelihood opportunities, already Professor Basu told that there is need some livelihood opportunity. If we getting some livelihood, if we are giving some livelihood opportunities to the villagers or to the forest fringe areas, then the forest degradation will reduce. So this is, we have to address all the drivers of ecosystem degradation. Incorporate all types of knowledge and promote exchange thought. Promotes their exchange thought out throughout the process. Principle 6 is tailored to the local context. While considering the larger landscape or seascape, whatever, socio-ecological and cultural settings, we have to make it in the local context. Principle 7 is based on the well-defined short and long-term ecological and socio-ecological, socio-economic objective goals. We have to meet some goals, what to do and what not to do, and where we have to reach. Principle 8 plans and undertakes monitoring and evaluation and adaptive management throughout the lifetime of the project or program. Principle 9 integrates policies and measures to ensure longevity, maintain the fundings, and what the appropriate enhanced scale up the intervention. Last 5 years, I'm working in the Jharkhand government that to scale up they have already faced many problems in terms of agriculture. The production is declining day by day. So how they can increase their production, I'm working on it. And the last 3 years I'm working, and the last year I'm telling you one thing, that they have increased their production. Yield has been increased, so they are getting their benefits to restore their ecosystem. Some of the initiatives already taken worldwide. 4 per 1,000 initiative. This is an initiative taken globally. This is a network demonstrate the role of agricultural, soil, and the climate mitigation and food security, so that people can understand what to do and what not to do. Bond challenge. We have all heard about the Bond challenge. Bond challenge, globally forest and landscape ecosystem, that already they have set a target. What is the target? Target of 350 million hectare forest and landscape restored by 2030. Restore of or European Center of River Restoration, specifically based for the greater Europe, a network to promote that build and capacity of the ecological river and restoration across the Europe. I'm talking about that few slides back. I have already talked about the Great Green Wall Initiative. They have already set their target to restore 100 billion hectare currently degraded land by 2030. They have to restore which are currently degraded 100 million hectare. So not only the Green Wall Initiative, but there are some other initiatives: Global Mangrove Alliance, Global Peatland Initiative, International Reef Initiative, and Regenerating Africa. So each and every initiative has taken have already based on some targets. They have already like Global Mangrove Alliance aims to increase global mangrove cover by 20% by 2030. If we go with the Regenerating Africa, 8 countries, specifically for the 8 countries of Sub-Saharan Africa, they have restored their ecosystem in 8 countries and trying to improve that resilience of 500,000 households. So these are the worldwide initiative we have taken. We have seen some of the Indian initiatives also. We can tell you that NABARD already initiated some projects already. They had going on some projects in different countries. I can remind that one project in Purulia for water project, another project in Jharkhand, that agricultural project, and the third one in the Northeast. So in that way, they're giving some funds to get some ecological restoration. So what we need for the way, what is the way forward? What we need in future? How we can do that? How we can continue that? We need to use the knowledge and experience of the indigenous people. Indigenous knowledge and experience very much appreciated. We need to understand that what is the indigenous knowledge and how they are protecting their resources. They know very much rather than the other people. We have to encourage the civil society also. There is a very good role of the civil society organization, NGOs, to prioritize restoration and related awareness raising efforts. We need to disseminate our best practices, whatever we received from the other states, other region. Monitoring multiple benefits of the successful ecosystem restoration. We need to educate the next generation of citizens to be aware of the value of nature, how nature can give us the money, and train the generation of entrepreneurs who can scale up the restoration efforts. Last but not the least, that we need to include all the restoration goals in the developmental plans. If we include the restoration goals in the developmental plans, it will give us that it will raise the awareness. It will give us raise the awareness across the population. It will happen with the developmental activities, and people will know about the importance of healthy ecosystem and why ecosystem is necessary, why restoration is necessary, and what is the current situation in our local context. Everything they can know. Thank you.
Thank you, Shumnath. Srija?
Yes. Thank you, sir. If anyone has any question, please ask to the sir directly. Participants, have you any questions? Is there any questions? Amisha, you have typed something. Do you? Okay. Okay, sir. There is a question about the passive restoration.
There is two types of restoration. One is the active restoration, and then other is the passive restoration. Active restoration means you have to actively involved in the restoration process, and the passive restoration, you need not to directly involve in the restoration process, but you can help the process to restore the ecosystem. Okay, I may not be able to walk in the field to restore the ecosystem or agricultural ecosystem or the forest ecosystem, but I may do something for them. Maybe increase, I can increase their knowledge, I can increase their capacity. In that way, I can do the passive restoration. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions? Okay, so I'm just ending the session. Before the ending, I would like to request our esteemed faculty, Professor Gautam Bhattacharya, to deliver the vote of thanks to our delegate guests. Sir? Gautam, sir?
Gautam da, are you there? Call করতে হবে। He is not available. Jagidda is there. Jagidda, are you
Yeah,
there?
I'm there. I'm there. I'm there.
Okay. On
I'm there.
behalf of
Uh,
Gautam, I'm requesting you to give vote of thanks.
yeah. So, thank you, Professor Hajra. I would also like to thank Professor Basu, the first semester speaker, for delivering such a beautiful lecture for all of us. I would also like to thank our Revered Principal Sir for his appreciation and help in order to make this possible, webinar possible. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the faculties of the department and other departments who have
Hello?
joined
Hello?
joined this and made this
Hello?
entire thing
Can you hear me?
possible.
Hello?
Gautam Rashid.
Hello, can you hear me? I was in the session, but I don't know why I was not visible. I was in the session. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Shall
can
I?
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Gautam, the Jagidda started. Okay, so I
Oh,
think
okay. No problem from my side.
Jagidda, you
So,
continue. Continue,
Uh,
please.
okay, thank all of you, all the attendees, all the students of our department, and especially the faculty members who have taken their time out to make this lecture possible. And last but not the least, I would again like to thank Professor Hajra and Professor Basu for delivering such a beautiful topic and interpretation to us for making us understand. Thank you all. Thank you all from the Department of Economics, and thank you all from Shet Andaram Jaipuria College itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Sumadra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaji. So can I lead?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You may.
Yes.
But participants, I have one request for you. We have shared the feedback form in the chat box. Please fill the form so that you can get the certificate on time. I have also shared the link in the WhatsApp group as well. हाँ बोलो